Pompeii. On the 24th of August, in the year 79 AD, the residents of this thriving Roman city of approximately 11,000 people had no meaningful warning before Mount Vesuvius ended their world entirely. The volcano had not erupted in living memory, and many inhabitants did not recognize it as a volcano at all. When the eruption began, it sent a column of ash, rock, and gas nearly 30 kilometers into the sky, and for the first several hours, some people remained in the city, sheltering inside buildings and waiting for it to stop. It did not stop. The ash fell for hours, collapsing roofs, filling streets, and suffocating those who stayed. Then the pyroclastic surges arrived, dense, fast-moving clouds of superheated gas and volcanic material traveling faster than any person could run, at temperatures exceeding 300 degrees. People died where they stood, where they crouched, where they had curled into corners, trying to protect themselves. The volcanic material that buried the city sealed it so completely that Pompeii was not rediscovered until 1748, nearly 17 centuries later. When excavators began clearing the ash, they found voids left by the decomposed bodies of the dead, and by filling those voids with plaster, they revealed the preserved shapes of people in their final positions: a mother holding her child, a dog twisting against its chain, a man covering his face. The city Vesuvius buried had been wealthy, populated, and completely unprepared. Herculaneum, sitting closer to Vesuvius than Pompeii and destroyed in the same eruption, Herculaneum experienced a fundamentally different and in many ways more terrifying death. While Pompeii was buried under falling ash over the course of hours, Herculaneum was largely spared the initial ashfall, and many of its residents believed they had more time. Thousands of people gathered on the waterfront and in the boat chambers along the shore, waiting for a rescue by sea that was already underway. Then a pyroclastic surge moving at speeds estimated between 100 and 300 kilometers per hour and carrying temperatures that may have reached 500 degrees reached the city in less than a minute. There was no ash burial for the people in the boat chambers. The heat arrived so instantaneously that skeletal analysis has shown evidence of soft tissue vaporization and, in some cases, the thermal expansion of fluids inside the skull. 296 skeletons were eventually found in those waterfront chambers, piled against walls and arches where people had pressed themselves in the final seconds. For centuries after Pompeii was rediscovered, Herculaneum's dead remained unknown. The boat chambers and their contents were not uncovered until the 1980s. The city above, unlike Pompeii, was buried under volcanic material that hardened into rock, and excavation continues to this day at a site that is partially beneath a modern Italian town.
Akrotiri. Around 1620 BCE, a settlement on the island of Thera in the Aegean Sea, what is now Santorini, was buried under volcanic ash in an eruption so large that some researchers believe it ranks among the most powerful in all of human prehistory. The island of Thera was itself the volcano, and the eruption collapsed the center of it into the sea, forming the caldera that shapes the island's distinctive crescent appearance today. The settlement preserved beneath the ash, known as Akrotiri, was not a small village. Archaeological excavation since the 1960s has revealed a sophisticated multi-story urban settlement with advanced drainage systems, elaborate painted frescoes on interior walls, and evidence of trade connections reaching across the eastern Mediterranean. The people who lived there appear to have evacuated before the worst of the eruption. Unusually, no human remains have been found in Akrotiri, which suggests some warning may have come, but the city itself was consumed entirely and sealed under meters of pumice and ash for 3,500 years. The eruption of Thera is thought to have sent tsunamis across the Aegean and triggered climate disruption across the northern hemisphere, potentially contributing to the destabilization of the Minoan civilization on nearby Crete. The island that once held Akrotiri is now gone, replaced by open water at the center of a volcanic caldera that tourists photograph from the rim without always knowing what is beneath the surface. Saint-Pierre, on the 8th of May, 1902, the city of Saint-Pierre on the Caribbean island of Martinique was the largest and most prosperous city in the French Caribbean, known locally as the Paris of the West Indies, with a population of approximately 28,000 people. Mount Pelée, the volcano overlooking the city from a distance of 8 kilometers, had been showing signs of unrest for weeks. Steam, ash, and sulfurous odors had alarmed residents, and some had already left for the capital. But an election was approaching, and local authorities, including the colonial governor, actively discouraged evacuation in order to keep voters in the city. The governor and his wife traveled to Saint-Pierre to demonstrate that it was safe, intending to remain through the election. On the morning of the 8th of May, Pelée produced not a conventional eruption column, but a nuée ardente, a directed blast of superheated gas, ash, and rock fragments, traveling horizontally at speeds estimated above 500 kilometers per hour. It reached Saint-Pierre in under 2 minutes. Every person in the city died within that window. The harbor, full of ships, was obliterated alongside the city. Vessels at anchor caught fire, capsized, or were simply crushed. The final confirmed death toll was between 28,000 and 40,000 people. Only 2 people in the city are generally cited as having survived the initial blast. One of them was a prisoner held in an underground stone cell, awaiting execution for an unrelated crime. The city was never fully rebuilt. Its ruins are still visible. Armero. On the 13th of November 1985, the Nevado del Ruiz volcano in Colombia generated a moderate eruption, modest by geological standards, releasing far less material than Vesuvius or Pelée had in their catastrophic moments. What turned that moderate eruption into the second deadliest volcanic disaster of the 20th century was what happened on the mountain's slopes afterward. The heat of the eruption melted the glacier and snowpack near the summit, generating enormous lahars, rivers of volcanic mud, water, rock, and debris that traveled downhill through river valleys at speeds of up to 50 kilometers per hour. The town of Armero sat in the path of one of those river valleys, on a flat plain at the base of the mountain, where lahars had deposited sediment before throughout history. The entire town was buried under meters of mud within minutes of the lahar arriving. Approximately 23,000 of Armero's 29,000 residents were killed. Most were asleep, the eruption having occurred late at night. The Colombian Geological Survey had warned of exactly this scenario weeks before the eruption, and a hazard map had been produced showing Armero in the highest risk zone. The warnings were not acted upon. A woman named Omaira Sanchez, a 13-year-old girl trapped in debris and mud up to her chest, was photographed alive by journalists over the following days as rescue efforts failed to free her. Her image became one of the most widely published photographs of a natural disaster in the 20th century. She died after approximately 60 hours.
The Kingdom of Tambora. In April 1815, a volcanic eruption on the island of Sumbawa in what is now Indonesia produced the most energetically powerful eruption in recorded human history. Mount Tambora expelled an estimated 160 cubic kilometers of material, generating a caldera collapse that dropped the mountain's peak by more than 1,400 meters. The eruption column reached 43 kilometers into the stratosphere. 3 kingdoms existed on Sumbawa at the time, and the eruption eliminated one of them almost entirely. The Kingdom of Tambora, centered near the volcano, was destroyed so completely, its population of 10,000 killed almost immediately, that the language spoken there died with its speakers and is now classified as an extinct language with no surviving documentation sufficient to reconstruct it. A village buried under the ash was excavated beginning in 2004 and is sometimes described as the Pompeii of the East. Bronze bowls, iron tools, carbonized food, and the remains of inhabitants were preserved in position under the hardened pyroclastic material. Globally, the eruption injected enough sulfur dioxide into the stratosphere to lower temperatures across the northern hemisphere by an average of half a degree Celsius over the following year. The summer of 1816, known as the Year Without a Summer, brought frost in July to New England and parts of Europe, devastating harvests and triggering famine conditions across multiple continents. The total death toll connected to the eruption and its climate effects has been estimated at 71,000 to over 200,000 people.
Plymouth, Montserrat. In 1995, the Saint-Pierre Hills volcano on the small British overseas territory of Montserrat in the Caribbean began erupting after being dormant for centuries. The capital city of Plymouth, a functional and inhabited town of approximately 4,000 residents, sat directly in the potential path of a volcanic hazard zone. The initial response was evacuation. The southern part of the island, including Plymouth, was progressively restricted and eventually entirely off-limits. The volcano did not produce a single catastrophic event, but instead erupted repeatedly over months and years. Pyroclastic flows, ash falls, and lahars moved through the restricted zone in successive waves. Plymouth was buried incrementally, not in a single morning like Saint-Pierre, but over an extended period that stretched from 1995 through 1997 and beyond. By the time the worst flows had passed through the city, it lay under up to 12 meters of volcanic debris in some areas. The port, the government buildings, the clock tower, and the residential streets were buried. The city was not destroyed in the way Pompeii was destroyed. It was not sealed and preserved. It was simply filled in and suffocated under layers of gray volcanic material. Its rooftops occasionally visible above the debris line, its streets transformed into ash plains. Plymouth remains the only functioning ghost capital in the world. It is technically still the official capital of Montserrat, still listed on maps, and still officially the seat of government. No one has lived there since the eruptions began. Drone footage of the buried city still circulates online, showing the clock tower emerging from the ash. Cagsawa. On the 1st of February 1814, Mayan volcano in the Philippines province of Albay erupted in what remains the most destructive eruption in that country's recorded history. The town of Cagsawa was one of several communities overwhelmed by the event. The eruption generated lava flows and pyroclastic material that moved rapidly across the surrounding landscape, and approximately 1,200 people who had taken shelter inside the Cagsawa church were killed when the structure was overtaken. The bell tower of the church survived the destruction, too solid and too narrow for the flows to topple it, and it stands today in the same location, isolated in a flat field with Mayan rising in the background. The tower is one of the most photographed sites in the Philippines and one of the most visually stark records of a volcanic disaster anywhere in the world. A single stone structure still standing exactly where the town was, with no town around it. Mayan volcano is considered one of the most active volcanoes on Earth and has erupted more than 50 times since records began. Approximately 50,000 people currently live within a declared danger zone around it. The relationship between the communities surrounding Mayan and the volcano that destroyed Cagsawa is not one of ignorance. The history is local and well known, but of necessity, given the fertility of the volcanic soil and the limited alternative land available on the island. Oplantis. Though the name is less familiar than Pompeii, Oplantis was a settlement of the Roman imperial period destroyed in the same 79 AD eruption of Vesuvius, and the manner of its end produced one of the most haunting single scenes in all of volcanic archaeology. The site, now known as Torre Annunziata, contained a large villa complex thought to have been a luxury estate connected to the family of Nero's wife, Poppaea. A second structure at the site, known as Building B, was not a residence but a warehouse or commercial complex where a large group of people, at least 54 individuals based on recovered skeletons, had taken shelter or gathered as the eruption worsened. They had brought valuables with them: gold jewelry, coins, a key, and personal items were found distributed among the skeletons. The group included men, women, children, and individuals of varying social status, identified through the objects they carried. All of them died in the same pyroclastic surge that killed Herculaneum at the same moment, in the same building. The gold they brought with them lay undisturbed under the volcanic material for nearly 2,000 years. What makes Oplontis different from the better-known sites is how completely ordinary the group appears in death. Not a city population caught in the open, not gladiators or priests or officials, but a collection of people who made a decision that seemed reasonable at the time, gathered in a solid building with whatever they valued most, and waited. The surge did not spare the building or anything inside it.
The Minoan eruption's reach, the Thera eruption of the 2nd millennium BCE, did not confine its destruction to Akrotiri alone. The scale of what was expelled into the atmosphere and ocean was so far beyond most volcanic events in the human record that researchers have spent decades tracing its effects across the eastern Mediterranean and beyond. Ash layers from the eruption have been found in ice cores drilled from Greenland, in sediment layers across the Aegean and eastern Mediterranean seafloor, in archaeological sites in Egypt, in Turkey, and as far east as the Black Sea region. The tsunami generated by the caldera collapse would have reached the northern coast of Crete, home to the Minoan civilization's largest palace centers at Knossos, Akrotiri, and Malea, within minutes to hours of the collapse. The degree to which the eruption directly caused or accelerated the decline of Minoan civilization remains actively debated among archaeologists and volcanologists. What is not debated is that the Minoan civilization entered a period of sharp decline in the centuries following the eruption and never fully recovered its pre-eruption level of regional dominance. Legends of a great civilization swallowed by the sea, recorded in ancient texts, including those attributed to Plato, are frequently and persistently connected to the Thera event by researchers who argue that the memory of the eruption and its consequences passed through oral tradition across centuries before being written down in a form no longer recognizable as a geological record. The caldera that Thera left behind is now one of the most visited tourist destinations in the world. Your voice shapes this channel. Join the Telegram linked in the description. And if you're not ready to stop exploring, click right here for another journey you won't want to miss.